like the responses. You just kind of like record.
Bro.
Into the realm of KSBM Radio's creation. Student-led from inception to narration. Crafting content from dawn until dusk. All students involved in the work and the fuss. In the heart of town view where voices reside. Student-led discussions where ideas collide. From interviews with leaders, peers, and businesses. Just watch us work, creating innovative content. Every aspect managed with student finesse. From podcast production to social media press. No task too daunting, no challenge too grand. KSBM Radio, we taking a stand. KSBM Radio, students leading the way. Every task idea, we seize the day. Witness now as all of our efforts break through. KSBM Radio, the voice of Town View.
I'm closer to the music. Broadcasting live from Marvin E. Robinson School of Business and Management, Dallas, Texas.
My radio station.
We are KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview. I'm Amethyst, here with my co-host,
Arum.
and today we're continuing our SBM 50 and TMC 30 alumni series, celebrating Townview's graduates making an impact in their careers and communities. Our guest today is Mr. Cade Davis, a proud graduate of the School of Business and Management, class of 2022. During his time here, Cade was a leader at KSBM, navigating the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic to keep our station's voice strong. Since graduating, he has achieved remarkable success at Morehouse College, where he earned his bachelor's in sociology, became a Phi Beta Kappa member, and was named a Mellon Mays Fellow. Beyond his academic honors, Cade has excelled as a researcher and data analyst, earning the distinction of being the best intern in the company's history at Cortland. He is now preparing to pursue a PhD in sociology. Cade's journey shows how the foundations built in our social media marketing cluster, from communication to critical analysis, lead to excellence in research and higher education. Mr. Davis, welcome back to Townview. We're excited to have you here. Is there anything you'd like to share with our peers before we get started?
No, I think y'all covered it all. Yeah, I'm excited to get started.
Okay, so let's get started. For our first question, what first drew you to attend the School of Business and Management and David Magnuson? And what drew you to the social media cluster? And why did you pick?
So, funny story, it actually wasn't my choice to come to Bellevue School of Business. It was actually my parents' choice. But once I got here, I was like, I don't want to do accounting. I don't want to do business management. And I like marketing. I like social media. So like I'll see what it's about. And specifically, I know there's two clusters. There was a competitive marketing one, and then there was the like KSB radio one. And I was always interested in like the show host process, what that looked like. And I also thought the skills were pretty transferable, like outside of business, in case I did not want to do that. But yeah.
If you didn't go to Townview, which other one would you go to? Which other school?
So I was at a private school called Bishop Dunn, and my parents were like, "Yeah, no, it's too expensive." So like Townview was kind of my only choice because I wasn't going to Bishop Dunn, and they're like, "If you don't get into Townview, you're gonna go to your home school, which I believe is Skyline, or not Skyline, Sunset."
So you were heavily involved in KSBM radio during high school. How did working in media shape your communication and leadership skills early on?
Like honestly, KSBM radio is probably the cluster that you gain the most skills in. Like I know business management has to focus on like communication, they have the whole thing for that, and accounting has like the math skills. But at least between competitive marketing and the radio show, being able to manage a schedule, be on time, adapt on the situation, and communicate with people you've like never met before and form a relationship so you can have them on a show, like the skills you get from this cluster are unparalleled. But yeah.
So for our next question, how did being a part of organizations like BPA, NHS, and Business Ivy programs influence your growth as a student and leader?
So Business Ivy was probably the most like contributive one. because being a part of Business Ivy, like, it's a Euro challenge. So we had to come up with a country, a plan, and basically solve a country's economic crisis in like what 5 weeks, 6 weeks. And like, I mean, of course we had longer time before the final, but it was constantly growing, constantly changing, so on and so forth. So it really helped grow my economic skills and my financial skills in a way that I didn't really get in any of my classes, per se. And even when I come to like, Morehouse and I'm taking an economics class, I'm still applying the skills I got from that challenge to that class, right? And I'm already ahead of the game in terms of like my economic capabilities and everything else, even though I'm a sociology major. So it kind of grew my expertise in more ways than one, and it gave me more opportunities.
What was it like being in Mr. Roman's class?
um, I that was probably one of my favorite classes. Like there was always something new. There was always something new. I don't know if I can say everything that happened in the class without him getting in trouble. I just like don't know how that works. But there was a lot of fun moments. I remember there was one time when like we came to class and he like stood on a desk and he was like, this is the global financial crisis, and boom. And like he dropped the ruler on the floor. And then Miss Sanders came in and she was like, is everything okay in here? And he was like, oh yeah, everything's fine. And like it was just a really fun time. Yeah.
So, high school during COVID was a unique experience. What was the biggest challenge you faced during that time and how did you adapt?
Man, my COVID year was probably my roughest year. So like, okay, when COVID first started out, it was spring 2020, right? And we had just transitioned like after spring break, we were like, we're not coming back. And it was like, yay, we're not going back to school for a week. And then it was a month. And then the school semester was over. And that whole semester, the last of that semester, I didn't learn anything. I remember the class, I had chemistry, I had American history, I had like English 101 or whatever. And I don't remember anything from those classes. And it kind of bit me in the butt because now I go to college and they're like, oh, do you know American history? And I'm like, so not really. That was my COVID year. But actually during that same time, so the next semester, during the summer, a tree fell on my house. And so I had to drive to California because like flights weren't a thing. Or I wasn't taking a flight. So my family and I had to drive to California to move there because our house was like under repair. So my whole like summer and fall 2020 semester, I was in California taking classes, and I would wake up at like 6 a.m., like 5 a.m. to be on time, and do the whole thing virtual. My day'd be over at 3, and it was just super crazy. But I did learn a lot that semester. I remember having like physics, and I had like another English class, and I had I think world history. I had another history class, but I did learn like the most I feel that semester. So yeah.
Looking back, what lesson from your COVID era and high school experience has stayed with you the most?
You have to like make time to do what you want for yourself. Like I don't know, because I was in California, I realized how much time I had throughout the day outside of school. Like I would wake up at 6. I mean, it was still like the same day, like it was still like 8 hours in school, but I'd wake up at 6 and be done at 3. And I had like 7 hours, like or like 5 hours a day left to do what I wanted to. And like spend that time like working on myself, having fun, like doing what I wanted to, because I just realized I had so much more time. Versus at school, like you get done with the day and it's like 4:30 and you got 2 hours till the sun's down. And that's if you go home by then. And so like when I came back from COVID, I would get done at 4:30 and I'd be like, hey, like let's go do something. Or like, hey, what clubs are there? Hey, like do you guys want to, do something? Because I was so used to having a long day with daylight out. So it just kind of helped me realize how much time there is in a day and how you can make use of it outside of just doing work, of course, and actually like use it for yourself.
What was it like doing KSBM during like COVID era?
KSBM during COVID era was one of the funniest things ever. So like we would have we had like our laptops or whatever, and a lot of us had Chromebooks because that's what the school handed out for us. and we did like an actual podcast. So we'd have like people on like all different corners of like, you know, the state, and they would be having they would have like, I don't know, 'cause I'm trying to think about how we did it. Some people would be on their phones and some people would have their computers. And we have to like call in and call each other, like, hey, like, are you ready to do the episode? And somebody would be like, oh, wait, no, like my abuelita is in the living room right now, so I have to wait. And we'd be like, okay, wait, like give us a sec. And so we wait for them, and like we do the podcast and everything. And it was cool choosing our own music and everything because like we really didn't have a time commitment. Like when we're in class, like you had to be done by, you know, what, like 10:30 because you have the next class to go to. But during COVID, you have like we had all day to edit. Like I would be in my next class editing a video, like editing a, you know, a podcast to produce, and I'd send it over to Miss Shipman and be like, "All right, here it is, it's done." And she's like, "Oh wow, this is like really high quality. It's like you had the whole day to do this." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I did." Yeah.
So you transitioned from a business-focused background at SPM to studying sociology at Morehouse College. Was there a specific moment of realization that prompted that shift?
So I was looking over the questions when y'all sent me them, and I was because I didn't know. I was like, I don't know when I got interested in this. And I found like writing from sophomore year history class in Miss Simpson's class, and I was like, oh, I'm always interested in society. I really want to help people. I'm interested in XYZ. And I was like, oh, I guess it started there. But I think since like freshman year, I've been writing about this. And I don't always know it was sociology, right? Because I didn't know sociology was a major until like my senior year when I was applying. But I knew I was like always interested in something related to society, something related to how people interact and why people do the things they do within the context of a system. But yeah.
So what did you to choose sociology at Morehouse, and how did the academic environment there shape you the way you approach research today?
So originally I didn't want to go to Morehouse. I had like three other schools I wanted to go to. I had Colorado, I had Davidson, and I was tied between Loyola Marymount in California and Morehouse. And I got rejected from Davidson. I got waitlisted from Colorado, and I got into Loyola, but it was in California. And they didn't give me as much of a scholarship, so I went to Morehouse. And you know, my dad is a Morehouse alum, so he was really happy. And I was like, okay, well, I just, you know, I don't want to. I was like, it doesn't matter to me. I was like, my two top schools I didn't get into, so it's fine. It's whatever. I'm going to college. But I wasn't appreciative of how important Morehouse was, right? One thing that you should like know going into college in general is always go to a place where you're going to have a community, right? Now if you get into Harvard and get a full ride, of course go to Harvard, right? Like I'm not saying don't go to Harvard, but you know, try and go to a place where you have community. You know you're gonna have a support system. I didn't understand that when going into Morehouse. I had an automatic support system, and part of it is that it's an HBCU. You know, and part of it is that it's the people, because there's a lot of HBCUs where it's not a good community. But Morehouse was a great community, and it was an amazing support system. And it actually allowed me to explore relationships with other Black men in a vulnerable space, right? One thing that isn't talked about a lot in research is the way that Black men have a hard time navigating relationships and being vulnerable with each other, right? Because it's so stigmatized in the community. And Morehouse gave me the opportunity to do that. And if I didn't go to Morehouse, I wouldn't have the research interest I do right now, right? And I wouldn't be able to grow as a scholar as I have right now. So, yeah.
As a Mellon Mays Fellow and Phi Beta Kappa member, how did these communities help refine your academic confidence and direction?
So, Phi Beta Kappa, they kind of just handed me the title. I didn't really do, like, you don't know when you get it, right? Like, it's the highest, like, academic award or whatever. And it's a secret society. So, like, you don't actually know what you have to, like, how, like, you get it. You don't, like, apply, you don't just do any steps. You just, like, do good in school. And they're like, all right, here you go, you did good. So I got that and I was like, oh wow, really? Like I was surprised. I was like, oh, okay. But for Mellon Mays it was difficult. So I remember I was a sophomore and I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like at this point, I knew I wanted to do sociology and study society, but I just didn't know like how. and they were like, okay, write a research proposal and turn it in, and that's your summer project. And I just wrote it and turned it in. But they helped me like refine what it means to actually do research and understand that. But yeah, so that's how Melanade's kind of helped me going that way.
Your senior thesis explored media framing of police brutality. Why was this topic important to you, and what did the research process teach you?
So a lot of it was actually inspired by KSBM Radio and the way that media is, well, the way we could use media. I remember the first time I decided a song, like for the like intermission. So we were talking about the news just released like whatever, it's like a statement on how the FBI and the government's like watching you. And in between the statement, I in the segment I put a song about the police, like I'll be watching you. I put in that song by the police. And I remember Shimon looked at it, she's like, okay, that's so funny what you did right there. And I was like, okay, well, like, I wonder how this is used in actual media. Like whenever a news statement wants to make a message, like what song do they put in? Like what do they put in that makes you think of a certain thing? And so the day I like decided I wanted to do my research project, an incident of police brutality actually happened. It was the killing of Tyre Nichols. And I was like, I wonder how the news uses media to influence people's perceptions about police brutality. And that's what kind of started the project. I want to expand like past that, like past police brutality and look at it in other areas. But that's how that project got started.
Would you do a different one if you could, or would you stay with the same one?
I would do a different one. So I did. It was inspired by Tyre Nichols, and I used Sonia Massey because she was the most recent. But if I could, I would expand it to like more people. So I want to see Tyre Nichols, George Floyd, Sonia Massey, and just more people in general. But I also want to look at like how framing affects, just everybody, right? How does framing affect public schools? How does framing affect, Black people? How does it affect Hispanic people? Just how framing affects different groups in general. Just past police brutality.
You were named the best intern in the company's history at Cortland. What habits or skills help you stand out in a professional space?
Always wanting to learn. Most people who like my fellow interns, I guess, who were there, it was a 9 to 5, right? We got in at 9 and we worked till 5 and we went home. After 5, a lot of people didn't do work. I did work, and I'm not talking about like work that I wasn't getting paid for. Like I literally. So the work I did was we looked at loan agreements, right? And because it was a real estate firm, and we looked at a loan agreement, and I would read through it to see whether or not we could make the loan. And I would have to put it in a model and adjust it, so on and so forth, right? And I was like, I don't know any of this, right? I didn't take accounting, I didn't take real estate finance, I didn't take loan finance classes. Like I don't know any of this. So I spent a lot of time reading at home and on the job, and I would work past the 9 to 5. Like I would do hands-on stuff during the 9 to 5. And then when I got home, I would go on like Investopedia and the dictionary site, and I would look up what these terms meant because I was like, I have no idea. And I remember my manager told me, she was like, hey, you're only going to be here for 4 weeks. I don't expect you to be able to do anything. She's like, I don't expect you to be successful. I don't expect you to do anything. You're just here to learn. And I was like, I'm gonna prove her wrong. I was like, I'm gonna like do something. And I actually ended up getting the company $6.9 million in revenue in 4 weeks. And they were like, yeah, we want you. Like they were willing to hire me on the spot. And I was like, hey, like you guys can hire me if you pay for my PhD. Or like if you guys, support my PhD. And they're like, we'll hire you on the spot. And I was like, okay, well, I'll come back to you and we'll talk about it. But yeah, making sure that you learn outside of what's required, right? Like be curious. It's okay if you don't know everything, right? But the first step to not knowing everything is being honest about it and then trying to address it. But yeah.
Between research, leadership roles, and internships, how do you manage your time while maintaining a balance and high performance?
I don't always manage my time correctly. And really, I don't manage my time in a way that's beneficial to me. So I get my work done, right? I get my responsibilities done, but I don't care for myself, right? I don't make sure that I'm okay. And that bites me in the butt a lot because somebody who isn't okay isn't going to be able to do anything productive. And so like a lot of the things I do when I manage my time is I make a list of priorities, right? I'm like, here are things I have to get done or my life is over. And usually at the top of that list is like eating, sleeping, and like, doing the bare minimum. And then everything else comes after that. So I'm like, okay, have I eaten today? All right, did I get 8 hours of sleep? All right, cool. All right, I have that assignment due. Let me do that. Okay, have like this professor to talk to, right? And I always start with a list of priorities. And I always make sure I'm at the top of that list. Because if I'm not at the top of that list, I'm like, I can't get anything done. There's nothing for me to do. But in terms of like, I guess a more like practical answer, like to actually like managing what you do, um, create time, recognize when you have free time, right? And I mean that in the sense of like recognize when you don't have anything you're doing right then at that moment. And a lot of times it'll be like, man, I'm bored. Okay, you're bored. Like, what could you be doing? It doesn't have to be like doing real work. It could be like, oh, like let me make a list, right? Or let me read for this reading for next class. Let me spend 5 minutes just doing something so that in 2 hours I'm not overwhelmed. But just taking time to like prioritize what you need to do.
As you prepare to pursue a PhD in sociology, what specific research questions or gaps in the field are you most interested in exploring?
That was an interview question that I have. That's an interview question I have coming up, which is funny, and it's also what I had to write for my applications. So I saw that question, I was like, oh my god, like who's interviewing me? um, but I think like so it's broad within the umbrella frame, right? The way I wrote it down was framing and Black masculinities, right? Because I'm interested to see how media tells stories about Black men, right? And how that affects the way Black men and other people interact with Black men. So in a very general sense, that's it. But I guess if you're looking for a more specific answer about what I want to research, I might want to look at Into the Spider-Verse, right? And see how people reacted to that and how they thought about Black men in relation to Into the Spider-Verse. Like, oh, Miles Morales, I've never thought of Black men this way. Or I've never thought of, Afro-Latino men in this way. Like, I want to see how forms of media impact the way people think about different groups. Especially like looking at poetry, looking at, cartoons, looking at movies, all types of content. So that's really what I'm interested in and want to do.
How do you hope to combine data analysis, media, and sociology to create real-world impact?
That's a really, really good question. And it's something I've been like wrestling with going into a PhD because like, I don't know, there's a really big stigma around like going into academia, like you're in the ivory tower, right? You do a ton of research like up here and it doesn't impact anything. Like you're just writing papers to write paper. And I really want to avoid doing that, right? As best I can. And the way like I do that is by actually writing about stuff that's relatable to people. Like I'm sure everybody or most people have seen Into the Spider-Verse, right? I'm sure most young Black men have seen Into the Spider-Verse and had a feeling related to him, like, man, like why do I like this, right? Or even young Latino men have seen Into the Spider-Verse, like, man, like he speaks Spanish and it's cool, right? Like, and you go into another like PWI or another corporate space, and it's like, oh, don't speak Spanish, right? The amount of times I've heard that is insane. Like, oh, you need to speak English only. You need to do X, Y, Z. And you see Miles Morales over here walking down the street speaking Spanish in class, and it's like, oh, like he can do that. Like, what does that mean for me, right? What does that representation do for me? And I think if I write about something that people are interested in, they'll read it. And that's really how I plan to relate to it. Because I'm like, I really could have used that piece of writing when I was in high school, right? When I was trying to find myself, when I was understanding who I was, I was understanding why I felt so conflicted about stuff. I could have used that piece of writing. So yeah, that's really what I wanted. Like, that's how I plan to, I guess, make an impact.
What advice would you give to high school or college students who are interested in research but don't know where to start?
Man, you're gonna hate this, but read, right? It doesn't matter what you read, just read. Like I have a book over here on my desk, like called Empress of Storms. I started this like series when I was in high school because one of my tutors was like, "Hey, Kate, like check this book out." I was like, "Okay, like sure," but Like, as long as you're reading something that you're interested in, you're gonna be okay. Cause like I was in what, freshman year, and I tried reading an academic paper and I hated it. It was so bad. I was like, I don't know why anybody reads this. I never want to do this. Like when I grow up, this is horrible. And now I read them all the time. And the reason I read them is because I know what I'm looking for in it, right? If I don't know what I'm looking for in an academic paper, I'm not going to read it. Um, and it started out just reading stuff I'm interested in. Like I'm like, oh, I'm interested in what is the Black history of Dallas? And I literally went on YouTube and watched a YouTube video about it, right? So research is just understanding what's there, right? Whether it be seeing it, whether it be reading about it, whether it be listening to it, it's just understanding what's there. And once you understand that research is that, everything becomes so much easier to explore. You don't have to be like quote unquote official to do research, right? You don't even have to be a researcher to do research. You just have to be interested in the subject and understand how to find an answer. But yeah, if you're interested in research, just watch a video, read something, find out, right? Answer the question.
When you look back at your career one day, what legacy do you hope to leave in the field of sociology and beyond?
Man, I've been thinking about that, and the first thing I thought was goofy. Like, I don't want to be a serious professor. I want to be someone who like makes students laugh. Who like people think of like, oh yeah, that's Cade. Oh yeah, I'm sure you laughed. Like, I don't want to be a stuck-up professor and just like really official and really like professional that people can't relate to, right? So yeah, and I know it's going to be hard, like balancing that going into a PhD and maintaining that in classes, right? Because the first thing people think of when they see Goofy, if they see like a light, is unserious. And it's going to be hard balancing being light and being, a light presence with being, serious. Because even though they're not oppositional, they appear to be. And the right person will make sure you don't get an opportunity because of that. So yeah, but I just want to be a light presence. I want to be somebody who shows that not everything has to be taken so seriously, especially in a field that almost that can have so little impact on everyday lives. Yeah.
So now time for our signature question. If you could go back and give advice to your high school self, what would you say?
Ooh, yeah, see, that's the one question I saw and I ignored because I was like, I don't know what to say. But if I could go back to my high school self, honestly, I would just say trust yourself. When I was in high school, I had a lot of doubt about whether or not I was doing the right thing. I was focused about like, oh, did I do this right? Did I grow right? Did I, am I, being mature enough? Am I doing my academics right? I was just like, trust yourself. So I spent so much time worrying about that I didn't really actually, I guess, take time to understand like what was in front of me. And I said like I missed out on my whole high school because that's not the case at all. But it just caused a lot more stress than was necessary, especially for high school. So I just say trust myself. And like, you got it. Because there's not really much. There's a lot of ways you can mess up in high school, but you have to do it by trying to mess up. Like if you're just trying and applying yourself, you're not gonna mess up. You're gonna be okay. Even if you're like, oh my gosh, I failed this test and everything's bad. I'm like, as long as you're trying to do something good, you're probably gonna succeed. Because that one failed test, it might show up in your transcript, but as long as you go to college, and even if you don't go to college, even if you go to get community or whatever, you're gonna be successful. It's really hard to not be successful. It's really hard to make one mistake and have that be the mistake that makes you not successful. So like be okay making mistakes, be okay taking risks, and just trust yourself, and you'll have it.
Well, now for our outro. What an inspiring conversation, Mr. Cade Davis, class of 2022, whose journey from managing KSBN during a pandemic and becoming a premier researcher at Morehouse College is truly remarkable. His story shows the power of combining data and social impact and highlights how the foundation laid here at Townview can lead to the highest level of academic and professional excellence. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. This conversation is just the beginning of our SBM 50 and TMC 30 alumni series, celebrating the graduates who continue to create and change their communities and beyond. Be sure to follow us on all of our social medias and subscribe so you won't miss our next episode. Until next time, this has been KSBM Radio, the voice of Soundview. Stay awesome.
Thank you for listening to KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
My radio station.
We hope you enjoyed the great content and great discussion, all from a student's perspective. Make sure to follow us on Twitter for the latest updates at KSBM_TVT or on Facebook at KSBM Radio.
Add them on Facebook.
Check them on Facebook.
Take care.
Okay, that's it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. Bye bye.
Bye, Mister.
Bye.